Mm-hmm.
So some of the things we look for, I always start looking at I say I'm not a hardware guy, but I know how to identify when a problem is hardware and how to quantify it. So I start looking at stats that have been gathered on I/O, network, CPU, and I look for a bottleneck there because I can also at that point say, okay, if it looks like this is pretty I/O bound, it might be time to start looking at indexing. If it's network bound, I might look at application which is shipping a lot of information across the network, etc. But at that point, we start moving down to that micro level, which is, okay, which queries are using the I/O? Which queries are using the CPU? Which queries are using the
Yes.
whatever? Your approach similar?
Absolutely. Typically, there are, four major domains at the macro level, as you pointed out. We have CPU, we have I/O, we have memory, and then we have network.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, in my experience, with OLTP systems, it could be different with analytic systems, but usually it's something like the storage subsystem is quite slow, or it's people stepping on each other's toes to get to the storage system. That's the most common one that I experience. And then followed by memory and network, not as much, but that does happen. And when it does, it's an extreme problem typically.
Yeah, but nice to be able to identify it because each of these groups always says it's not us. And one of my new favorites in that area
Right.
are people who have gone to Azure and say, well, we're paying for 80,000 IOPS, and I can look at it and say, okay, I can demonstrate that you're getting a little bit less than spinning disk speeds. And
Yes.
once you show people how that gets quantified, becomes very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So as you get to the point where you can start looking at these things, it really is interesting what bubbles up to the top because often it's not what people are expecting to see. If
Yes.
somebody is throwing